First grade, now that you are done with all of your drafts for your background, you're going to pick the one that you like the best. So this one ended up being my favorite one, so I'm going to start doing a building on top by using our simple geometric shapes that we talked about in the video before class started. At your table, there are lots of different colors, and there's a couple of different shapes. There is a square with a square cut out. There's a skinny long rectangle, and there's a triangle. So we're just going to keep it very simple, kind of like building blocks that you would have at home, or maybe in your first or when you were in kindergarten classroom. So the first thing you need to decide is what shape you want to start with. Just start with one, and what color you want to start with. The shape I'm going to start off with first is going to be red, and I'm going to pick the box with the hole in it missing because we're going to start at the bottom of our building and work our way up. So I'm going to pick some of the bigger shapes for the bottom, and then I'll pick smaller shapes as we work our way up to the top. So I'm going to cut one of my shapes off. I'll place this one back in the center of the table. That way, if somebody else needs to use this, they can. Anytime we cut out a shape, again, it's easiest if you just do a bubble cut. That way you can get rid of any of the extra paper around your shape out of your way. That way when you're doing your line cutting, you don't have to worry about this wrapping around your fingers. After you've done your bubble cut, this can go in the recycling bin. After our bubble cut, we can do a line cut, which is a nice slow cut all the way around our shape, this time on the line. Again, your scraps can go in the recycling bin. Once you have your first shape cut out, we want to go ahead and glue it down right away. That way we don't lose any of our pieces. Now, the grayed out side is going to be the side that we are going to glue down, and we're going to have the colorful bright side facing upward. So I'm going to remove my background so that I'm not getting glue all over it. I'm going to make sure that the gray part of my shape is facing me, facing up. I want to put glue on the dark side and not on the bright side. So I'm going to flip it to the dark side. You'll grab your glue. You'll dip, just the tip. You'll spin the brush so it doesn't drip. And you'll add glue to your shape. And because these shapes are small, it is okay to put glue on the entire shape. You don't have to worry about just going around the outside. We can go ahead and fill in the whole shape. Remember, our brush doesn't stay in the glue. You can just leave it on the cardboard. Move your glue out of the way. We can bring our background over. And what we're gonna do is we're going to start with this shape in the middle. So I want to make sure that it is somewhere on my green ground. We don't want it floating in the sky, and we don't want our building to be all the way on the bottom. So I'm gonna go in the middle of my ground, and if I like where I have it, I'm going to push and hold. I'm gonna count to 5 slow in my head. And I'm going to rub down to make sure that this shape is not going to fall off. Once your first shape is done, we're going to put another shape on the right and one on the left. But we're going to do it one at a time. That way, if class gets over, you're not going to have all these pieces that you're going to have to try to figure out where we're going to put them. So if we only have one shape cut out, it's easy to just leave on our paper and we can glue it down next class. So again, you can go back to all of your shapes and all of your colors. If you want, you can do the same shapes over and over in the same colors. However, that might not be very fun or exciting to look at. So changing the shapes and changing the colors may be more fun, which will make people want to look at your project a little bit longer. So I'm going to stay away from any of the green shapes for right now because my hill is green. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to choose a different shape. This time I'm going to pick yellow. You can pick whatever color works best for you. And I'm going to cut out the one shape that I need, and I'll leave the other shapes in the center of my table. Now that you have your shape picked out, you can go ahead and do a quick bubble cut to get rid of all of the extra paper. And you can throw away your scrap in the recycling bin. We can go ahead and do our line cut. And again, any scraps can go in the garbage. Remember, the dark side is going to be facing down, so that way the light side will be facing up. And you'll have to decide, do I want this shape to go on the right or the left of my first shape? And you might not want to get too far away, or as you're building up, your pieces won't be able to touch. To make one tower, you'll have 3 separate towers. A good rule of thumb is to look at your first shape and look at the edge of the paper and start moving your fingers together at the same time until they touch. And that should be the middle between your shape and the edge of your paper, which is a really good place to go ahead and glue your shape down. So I don't want to get glue on my background, so I'll move it off to the side. Remember, we're flipping our shape over so it's the gray side. We're getting our glue in our brush. Dip, dip, just the tip. Spin the brush so it doesn't drip. I'll add my glue to my shape. The brush can sit on the cardboard. The glue can move off to the side. We can bring our background back, and I can place my shape down. Before you push and hold, make sure you like where it is. It's going to be nice if they are lined up with the other shapes, so that way your building is starting at the same spot. So if your building is too high down here, you might want to lower it. If it's too low, you might want to raise it. That way it's pretty close to lined up with my red one. Now I can push and hold. I'll count to 5 slow in my head. I'll rub on my shape to make sure that it sticks down nice and tight. And one thing you always want to do is once you're done, you want to do a fingernail check. Because if you can get your fingernail under it, that means you didn't glue your shape very well and it's going to start coming off. So my first shape was pretty good except for this little leg, which is very easy to fix. You'll grab just a little bit of glue. We'll add it to our shape and we'll re-push and hold. And we'll re-rub. And hopefully the second time it will stick much better. So we have our centerpiece, the piece on the right. We're gonna do a piece on the left. You get to pick a shape for the left side, and that's gonna be the first floor. You'll decide if you wanna do 3 floors or 4 floors, but nothing higher than 4 or it'll go off the paper. So this will be floor number 1. Made of 3 shapes. For shape number 3, again, you can go back to the middle of your table and you can pick a new color. You can also pick a new shape. I'm staying away from green because my ground is green and I don't want my shape to blend in. I'm gonna use purple this time, but I am gonna keep the same shape. I want to keep these nice, big, strong shapes for my bottom. That way they can hold my building up a little bit better. So I'm going to use the same shape, but I'm going to switch colors. So I'm going to cut one off for me to use, and I'll put the rest of it in the middle of the table for other students to use. Go ahead and start with your bubble cut. You can go ahead and throw your scraps in the recycling bin. Now we can do our line cut. Can go in the recycling bin. Same thing, if you start one of your fingers on the middle shape and one on the end, and you move them towards each other at the same time, that will be the middle between your shape and the outside, which will be really good for when we want to start building our buildings upward. We'll move our background out of the way. Our shape needs to be upside down so that the gray side is showing, not the bright side, but the gray side. We'll grab our glue, dip, just the tip, spin the brush so it doesn't drip. We'll add glue onto our shape. The brush can sit on the cardboard, the glue can get moved off to the side. We'll bring back our project. Again, line your shape up so that the bottoms are all at the same spot and that it's in between the edge of your paper and the shape. When you like it, you can push and hold, count to 5 slow in your head. Rub your shape so it stays down nice and tight. And now the bottom of our building is done. I know that they're not touching, but as we start building up, we're going to show you some ideas for how you can get your building pieces to touch one another. Okay, first grade, now that you are done with your bottom building blocks, the bottom of your building, we're going to start working our way up. This is floor number 1. So we're getting ready to do floor number 2. And it should take 3, maybe 4 pieces. I'm going to explain that really quick before we actually start gluing. When you cut out the other shapes, we're going to start building on top, just like you would with building blocks at your home, in the classroom, and we're going to start working our way up. So one of the most common ways is to do a rooftop on top of a square to make it look like a house. That makes sense. However, if you do that on a smaller, skinnier piece, now your buildings aren't touching, which is okay. But if you want your building to be strong and touching and going upward, what you can always do is you can take longer pieces and connect them before you place your next one down. Okay? And it's okay if you overlap. If you want to put the purple on top of the purple and then make a bridge going over to the red, you can. And then you can add your yellow. Same thing, if you do another building like this and you try to connect them, it's going to come up a little bit short, which means you can either move it over a little bit so that it's touching the purple and touching the red, or again, these long rectangles are really nice for making bridges so that our buildings are touching one another and we can work our way up. So for mine, I really want to use this shape, but I don't want to use orange because it'll be touching the orange moon. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use it for over here on this side. Okay. I like that it does touch, but I kind of wish that it was more over the top of the yellow a little bit more. So before I glue this down, I'm going to make a little bridge with our rectangle. I'm going to use purple because the colors don't have to be matching. I'm going to do my bubble cut. Throw my scrap away. I'm going to do my line cut. And I'm going to check to make sure that my bridge is going to work out well. And I kind of like that my bridge is lined up with my yellow and lined up with my red. So that's where I'm going to put mine. If you don't want to do a bridge, you don't. But the main rule for going upward for the second level is we don't want to just have floating pieces. If we were to walk outside and look at a building, whether it was real or not real, the buildings would need to be at least touching something and not floating around to make it look like a building. So the rule is that your pieces need to be touching at least one of the pieces that you've glued down already. So I'm going to move mine off to the side. Remember, when we glue, we're gluing on the gray side, the dark side, and we're leaving the bright side to show up on our project. We'll dip just the tip. We'll spin the brush so it doesn't drip. We'll add glue to the dark side of our shape. If you need more, you can dip more. We'll bring our background back. And again, I'm going to line up my shape with the yellow and the red. If I love it, we'll keep it. I'll push, count to 5 slow in my head. I'll rub it to make sure it stays nice and tight. Now the bridge does not count as a floor. We want to work our way up, and right now I haven't gone up past my yellow. So the bridge is just an extra piece. So if you don't like doing extra work or extra pieces, you might not want to do the bridges. For my example, I have a yellow cut out, but I already used yellow on this side, and I kind of want to use some other colors. So I do like my yellow, but I'm going to save it maybe for over on this side where I don't have a yellow sun and a yellow shape already. So from before, I had the orange that I thought I wanted to put on this side, but I changed my mind because I didn't want orange on orange. So this might be a great time to use my orange since there's no orange on the right hand side. I'm going to place my shape down with no glue because if I don't like it, it's super easy for me to move. And since I don't want the same shape on top of the same shape on top of the same shape, I'm going to use this shape and move it over here to the right. And this will count as the second floor because now it's a shape on top of shapes. My purple was a shape that was just putting a bridge between my red and my yellow. So now that I have my plan all set, I'll move my background off to the side. I'll flip my orange piece over so that I see the gray. I'll grab my glue and my brush. I'll dip just the tip, spin the brush so it doesn't drip. And again, these shapes are small, so it is okay to glue the entire shape. When we have larger shapes, we just want to go around the outside and an X in the middle. But for this, we can put glue on the whole shape. Because I had my plan and I checked it, I know that this is exactly where I want my shape, which is important. We are not doing another draft, so if this was your favorite background, we want these to be your favorite buildings. So please go slow and please check your shapes before you glue them down. Once they're glued down, the only way to get them off is to rip them. So I love it. I have this square shape in the middle. Now I have a square shape over here on the right. I'm going to push and hold. I'm going to rub. And my second floor for the right hand side is done. I just need to do a shape above this shape in the middle and a shape above this shape on the left. I'm going to go ahead and come to the middle, and I'm going to look at all my shapes and all my colors, and I'm going to build upward from here. I don't need a bridge here, so I can just go ahead and start moving upward with a shape. Now I know that I'm going to use this one that I cut out earlier, but I didn't like it over here on top of a yellow on top of a yellow. And I didn't like the orange on top of the orange. So I know I'm going to use a yellow triangle over here. So I'm not going to put a triangle here, and I don't want to use another house shape because I've already used that. So I'm going to go ahead and build upward with another rectangle, but I've already used purple twice, and I've already used yellow, and I've already used orange. Now that I'm getting away from the ground, now might be a good time to start looking at the greens. So I'm going to choose a green. I'm going to cut the one that I need. I'm going to put the ones I don't back in the middle of the table. And I'm going to do my bubble cut. You can go ahead and throw your scrap in the recycling bin. And you can do your line cut. Extra paper can get thrown in the recycling bin. Before you get out the glue, double check and make a plan of attack. So I know that I want to start building my way up. So I don't want to lay this shape down flat, or it's going to take me a really long time to get up to the top of my paper. Because my shape on the right is tall, I want this shape also to be tall. Now I can put it in the center, I can move it over to the right, I can move it over to the left, but it does need to be touching the red somehow. It could touch in the corner, it could touch at the end or the middle. Because I want to keep going straight up and down, I think my idea is to just go straight up. And again, my green is now above white and above blue, so the green will actually start standing out now that we're off the grass. If you like your plan, you can say I like it. You can move your background off. You can flip your shape over so that it's the gray side. We'll grab our glue, dip, just the tip. We'll spin the brush so it doesn't drip. And we'll pull, lift, pull, lift. We'll bring our background in front of us. And since I know exactly where this piece is going, I'm going to put it where my plan was. Double check, because if you don't like it, you can still lift it because you haven't pushed it down. But if you do like it, push and hold, rub, and now I have the first floor done. I have the second floor done for the right side and the middle. I just need to do over here on the left. Now that you've done your second floor on the right, the middle, we're going to do on the left. And I know that I said I wanted to do my yellow triangle. Again, if you want to, you can put the triangle right here on because it is touching the purple. But if you do want your buildings to be touching, you're going to want to make sure that you're adding one of our bridges. Because I added a purple bridge here on top of my yellow, I'm going to change the color for that. But I don't want to use yellow because I'm doing a yellow triangle. Before I build up, I'm going to add a bridge, so I'm going to look at all the shapes and all the colors. I'm going to go ahead and just choose purple so that it matches my bottom piece. I'll cut the one off that I need. I'll leave the one that I don't need in the middle of the table for somebody else to use. We'll do our bubble cut. Your scraps can get thrown in the recycling bin. Now you can do your line cut. Scraps can go in the recycling bin. Remember, before you glue this down, let's move it around so that way we can see where the best spot to put it is. My left piece is a little further away from my middle piece, so if I try to glue it the way that I did on the right hand side, it's not going to touch my red. So I'm going to have to just move it over slightly. That way my bridge is going from one of my building parts to another and it's not floating. If you like that, we can move the background out of the way. You can flip your shape from the colorful part to the gray part. Grab your glue. We dip, just the tip. Spin the brush so it doesn't drip. Since you know exactly where it's going, you can place it and slide it. Remember, if it's where you want it, we can push and hold. Rub to smooth it down. Now remember, bridges don't count as moving up. So our first floor is our yellow, our purple, and our red. But our second floor has only been orange and green. We still need one more shape going up to make our second floor. Earlier we talked about this triangle that I had cut out earlier. And we were going to put it over on the right hand side, but there's already yellow and a yellow sun. So I ended up saying we're going to save this for this side. So I'm going to place it on top of my purple. Once you like it, you'll move your background out of the way. You'll flip your piece over to the gray side. You'll grab your brush and your glue. You'll dip, just the tip. Spin the brush so it doesn't drip. You'll bring your background in front of you. You can place your shape down. If it's where you like it, you can push and hold. And you can rub it down. So right now we have 2 floors of our building. We're going to keep moving upward, but you're going to have to scan the next video to work upward because we're going to talk about different ways to build up so that you're not repeating the same shapes in the same directions. So this is it for video 1. Great job. You're about halfway done. Go ahead and grab from bucket number 2.